Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. This is an awesome day. Late start here at the ETV Community Media Center as we got a lot of moving parts with the Fall Fest here in town. But I appreciate those of you joining me for this week's edition. And we start in New York with this shirt. The Mick Mets are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They are currently tied for the third wild card spot in the National League with the Atlanta Braves. If you told me back at opening day that the Mets and Braves would be tied for a wild card spot in the National League in September, I would have called you absolutely crazy. But this team never says die. They've been absolutely fun to watch. Francisco Lindor, who we talked about a little bit last week, getting some MVP chance and consideration, became the second shortstop in the history of baseball to have 5 30 home run seasons. He's looking to be 30 2 years in a row. And it's just an absolute future Hall of Fame stud, a guy that I love to watch, both hitting as well as in the field. And this Mets team has done all of this, has continued to stay relevant with their closer, Edwin Diaz, coming back off a serious lower body injury and not being his typical dominant trumpet blowing self. But they've continued to go down and do everything they need to do without their ace of their staff. Kadai Senga has thrown 4 innings this year, and this Mets team is still in position to make the postseason. It's absolutely unbelievable. There was a lot of jokes about the Grimace first pitch and how it kind of turned their season around. There's been a ton of great energy from Jose Iglesias and him singing at the All-Star game, as well as after multiple Mets games with his viral music. But this Mets team is just so fun. I know as a Red Sox fan that didn't have a lot of expectation going into the season, that all I said is I want to be playing meaningful games in September. And I'd assume Mets fans had a very similar outlook going into the season. The ones that I know have seemed to have the same thing. And this Mets team is playing meaningful games here in September with Pete Alonso not having his typical 40-50 home run season, with them not having the ace of their pitching staff. This Mets team has continued to win games and just play really quality baseball. It's been really, really fun, whether it be guys like Brandon Nimmo and Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez. Everybody seemed to have a play or a night that has helped the Mets win a game and stay in the hunt. And it has just been absolutely fun to watch, especially knowing as a Mets fan that you have a Juan Soto and big pitcher offseason coming up, and you have an owner who showed you 2 years ago that he is not afraid to spend. He is not afraid to make big moves, and he wants to compete. So it's just a really great time for Mets fans. I'm hoping that they can continue to stay in the playoff hunt deep into the month of September. But as of right now, as we stand here today, in the first week of September, they are tied for that third wild card spot with the Atlanta Braves. Now, the Cubs had a combined no-hitter the other day, started by a favorite of the show, Shota Imanaga, who's been really, really fantastic in his first year in the major leagues. 7 innings of no-hit baseball from Shota, 9 strikeouts, and a couple relievers there, Nate Pearson coming in and getting the job done, getting the Cubs to no-hit the Reds. Now, this is a bright spot in what has been a disappointing season for Chicago. This is a team that, while they've been hot and been a lot better in the second half than they were in the first half, they still are nowhere near the Milwaukee Brewers and are just middling in that division with the St. Louis Cardinals and the Cincinnati Reds. But this is a really awesome thing. I know people prefer the individual no-hitters to the combined, but Shota Imanaga, with how dominant he's been this season, the fact that he was a part of this in his rookie year, it's just really awesome. And if Paul Skeens didn't exist, I do think that my prediction of Shota Imanaga winning the National League Rookie of the Year might have just came true. This Cubs team Has a lot of potential. I know Craig Counsell's the highest paid manager in baseball. They stole him away from the Brewers, and now the Brewers are beating them in the standings. I know Cody Bellinger had a fantastic year last year, comeback player of the year in the National League, and they signed him to a deal, and he's not able to deliver the same kind of production. But this Cubs team has a lot of great moving parts. They added Isaac Paredes at the deadline. He's had some big games during this hot stretch for them. He's a really quality hitter that can also play a really solid third base. And Dansby Swanson and the boys, they have a lot of winners in that clubhouse, and I just think that there are brighter days ahead. Enjoy the combined no-hitter, Cubs fans. You might not be able to make a playoff run at this point in the season, but your season has had a lot of bright spots and hopefully things to build off of in 2025 and beyond. This no-hitter being the most recent revelation in the Windy City. Now, the Braves are tied with the Mets for that third wild card spot. And a lot of people are talking about how disappointing the Braves season has been. And I know I just said the Cubs season has been pretty disappointing for most people's expectations, mine included. I picked them to win the division in the Central. But the Braves were a team that last year put up video game numbers as an offense. Absolutely top to bottom. Everybody in their lineup, everyday players, had a fantastic year. A lot of their platoon and just fill-in players were productive. They had a fantastic pitching staff and a really reliable bullpen. And this year, none of those things have really been true. They've had a lot of injuries to their lineup. Ronald Acuna Jr. going down very early in the season. Ozzie Albies has missed a lot of time. Matt Olson and Austin Riley have taken a step back offensively from what you'd expect from those guys who are typically 30 home run, 100 RBI type hitters in the corners. Marcell Ozuna has been the one bright spot on their offense, a guy who I thought was an admiration. I expected the Braves to regress a little bit from last season, but I expected to be more so on the margins with guys like Marcell Ozuna. But Marcell Ozuna has been an absolute horse for that Braves team and had a fantastic season, at one point garnering MVP consideration because of all the injuries in the National League. But the Braves' real story has been Chris Sale. And Chris Sale is a person who I've enjoyed watching his entire career, whether it was his time in Chicago, his time in Boston, and now his time as an Atlanta Brave. Chris Sale has pitched more innings this year for the Braves than he did in the last 4 seasons for the Boston Red Sox. And I know a lot of Red Sox fans are bitter. A lot of Red Sox fans are saying, why couldn't he do this for us? Chris Sale is one of the most competitive athletes I've ever watched. He wants to be out there. He wants to compete. He wants to help his team win baseball games, which is why it was such a big opportunity for him to come to Boston, to leave a small market like the Chicago White Sox and join a team with Dave Dombrowski that wants to spend and wants to win a World Series, had a great young core. And when he struck out Manny Machado in the 2018 World Series to clinch that ring, it was absolutely magical, a moment that I will never forget as a Boston sports fan. Since 2018, Chris Sale, while on the mound, has been efficient, has been a strikeout artist. But it is just truly interesting that Chris Sale now is the clear front runner for the National League Cy Young because he's outlasted people. This is something that has been really, really awesome for Braves fans and for fans of great pitching. Chris Sale is a guy who looked like a surefire Hall of Famer. If you just took 2018 and forgot about everything in between, looked like he was well on his way to the Hall of Fame as a starting pitcher. And injuries have gotten the best of him, and they've been freak things. They've been because of his windup. They've been things off the field. And I've just felt for the guy every single time because he wants to be out there. He wants to compete. And when he is out there, he's striking out 8 to 10 batters, and he's making a difference. I am so happy for Chris Sale. I hope that all of you are keeping that bitterness out of your hearts, not falling into the noise of why wasn't he doing that in Boston, or, oh, he must be using steroids. I've seen all those different comments on the internet. Don't be one of those people. Enjoy greatness while it is currently in front of you. I thought that the greatness of Chris Sale was behind us back in 2018, 2019. There's still some greatness, but enjoy it now. He has one more season after this left in Atlanta, and then there's a team option for a third year. He's 35 years old. So at 35 years old, he has over 200 strikeouts, 16 wins right now, and a ERA that is very, very in line with his career. He's currently at 23.95 strikeouts. So he has one more good season left in him. Let's just say, based off his track record, that he strikes out somewhere between 1 and 200 batters next season. Maybe he doesn't make as many starts. Maybe he's a little bit less effective in his age. Maybe there's some regression. People figuring him out. That'll put him at about 2,500 strikeouts for his career in 15 seasons at the age of 36. Does Chris Sale strike me as the type of guy who is going to pitch until he's 40? Not necessarily. I think if he's able to win a championship with the Braves this year or next year, that he would walk off into the sunset with that ring, showing that like I was able to come back, be Chris Sale of old, and help another team win a title when I wasn't helping the Red Sox win a title for the last handful of seasons, because I know that really, really hurt him personally. Does he become a Hall of Famer? I know a lot of people are already giving him the Cy Young Award, but does Chris Sale become a Hall of Famer? Let's just say he gets 10 more wins next year and that 1 to 200 strikeouts. Is a pitcher in the modern era that's an 8-time All-Star with 140-something wins and 2,600 strikeouts, is that a Hall of Famer with the Cy Young potentially in his showcase? I think that's the real discussion that's going to be happening with Chris Sale now, and it's one that I wasn't imagining to have based off of his career. I thought that his Cy Young winning years were behind him, but it's just absolutely awesome as a fan to be able to see him have this kind of success in a change of scenery for a team that is fighting to make the postseason after being a lot of people's World Series pick during the offseason. Chris Sale is a pleasure to watch. If you haven't watched him this season, I recommend tuning into his next start and just taking in one of the best pitchers of his era, who's maybe not at the height of his powers, but in vintage form right now. Absolutely fun to watch. I was so glad he made the All-Star team. I'm so glad that he's having the season that he's having, and you all should be as well. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we'd like to throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And September 7th had a laundry list of things that I could choose from. There were different streaks that were started and career achievements that were started. Walter Johnson won his first 1-0 ball game. He has a record 38 wins in 1-0 ball games, where the room for error is close to 0. There was a really funny incident where Greg Nettles was suspended 10 games in 1974 for loading his bat up with 6 Super Balls. He cored his bat with 6 Super Balls. I had never heard this story until looking into today's date. With Super Balls to try to make the ball go farther off of his bat. that you almost have to give it to him that's just next level, just gamesmanship, like crazy creativity. But that's not the moment that I wanted to pick for this day. Greg Maddux had his first major league career win in his illustrious career as the Cubs beat the Reds on this date in 1986, 11-3 at Wrigley Field. He had a fantastic career and is someone that I don't think gets enough credit in the all-time great discussion. He would be on a lot of people's pitcher Mount Rushmore if you really look at the statistics in the career, not to mention his record 18 Gold Gloves as a pitcher, which is just absolutely insane that he was the best fielder at his position for that long. But on this date in 2010, Trevor Hoffman became the first closer ever to record 600 saves. The Brewers got a victory over the St. Louis Cardinals, September 7, 2010. Trevor Hoffman saving his 600th game in 676 save opportunities. That's an 89% success rate, which is really great in the game of baseball, where 33% tends to make you really, really good. In the closing game, you're hoping that you're probably around 75%, 3 out of every 4 save opportunities, you can get it done. But the real money guys, the guys who are the Hall of Famers that get the All-Star nods, are the guys that are in the 80 to 100% success rate range. And the fact that in 676 opportunities over his illustrious career in Florida, in San Diego, and in Milwaukee, that he was able to save 90% pretty much of his games, his opportunities to save the game and get his team the win. That's why Trevor Hoffman's a Hall of Famer, people. And to put this into perspective, I know Mariano Rivera ended up passing him, becoming the second pitcher ever with 600 saves, as well as being the all-time saves leader when he hung it up. But the previous all-time saves leader before Trevor Hoffman and Mariano Rivera passed him was Lee Smith with 478 saves. The 500 save club did not exist. Now, saves were not as big of a stat. There wasn't as many people pushing for it and putting people in the position to get the saves as there is in the modern game. But the fact that not only Trevor Hoffman helped make the 500 save club, which is now what many people believe as the landmark to be a Hall of Fame reliever, but to be the one who christens the 600 save club. Absolutely amazing career. A guy who, because he played in the same era as Mariano Rivera, does not get his due. Check out Trevor Hoffman's baseball reference page. Check out the seasons where he was able to save all these games, help his team win. And as we are here in September, looking towards the postseason, you better hope that your team that's in the playoff hunt has a reliever at the back of that bullpen that can be called upon and save damn near 90% of his opportunities if you want any chance of having a deep postseason run. Rounding things out here on the show, Elvis Andrus announced his retirement. And while he might not be a household name, someone that you think about all the time, Elvis Andrus had a really fantastic little career there. Not only being someone who helped the Texas Rangers win a couple AL pennants and as well as some postseason runs, but 34.2 career WAR, broke the rule of 2,000 hits, 2,091 hits, a career 269 hitter. He scored 1,058 runs in his career, hit 380 doubles, and drove in 775 runs. But the thing that really got to me is because I remembered him earlier in his career being a good base stealer. He stole 347 bases in his career. That is nothing to sniff at. Past his 30s, he didn't end up stealing as many bases. That's actually pretty typical in Major League Baseball. But just a really, really nice career. A guy who I remembered watching fondly, a guy who had a ton of fantastic interactions when he was playing on the left side of the infield in Texas with Adrian Beltre, messing around with him on pop flies, messing around with him in the dugout, and all those amazing moments. Elvis Andrus is a player in baseball history, in my baseball history, that I really appreciated while he was still playing. And it kind of harkens back on how I ended the show a few weeks ago, talking about standing ovations for guys that you wouldn't think are getting ovations in the game of baseball, but it's so regional. Johnny Cueto getting the standing O in Kansas City, Javier Baez when he returned to Wrigley getting that standing ovation, Elvis Andrus getting standing ovations in Texas for the rest of his life because of the career that he had, because of the impact he made, not only on his teammates, but on the fan bases, on the game of baseball. And that's just such a magical thing in this sport, is players don't necessarily need to be all-time greats or borderline Hall of Famers to have made an impact on the game, to be remembered. And Elvis Andrus is another name added to that list. Congratulations on a fantastic career, Elvis. I hope you enjoy retirement. I know you will be on a Baseball Hall of Fame ballot in 5 years, getting support. I don't think so, but an amazing career worthy of praise and thanks, none the less. I appreciate all of you who spent some time hopping in here in the live chat. Mookie, Will, Orlando, Hugo, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate those of you that listen to this later in the week. I hope you guys enjoy Solo Shot Saturday, as well as the first weekend of NFL football. I know that's a very exciting thing for me as a football fan as well. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and share this show with someone who loves the game of baseball as much as we do. I'm Dom Manna, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.